everyone, Diane here, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to paint some cats, so without further ado I'm going to start. This is the two palettes of paint that I'm going to be using, by the way. So I've got a piece of paper here and I've done a very light sketch on here of some kitties, and what I'm going to do, I'm trying to figure out the best way of doing this painting actually as I'm going along, but I decided that I'm going to go around the edges of the cats with my masking writer. Which is a very useful tool which stops things from running quite so much. So I've got lots of cats here. It doesn't matter if it's not exact. It's just I thought it might help if I went around the outlines. Now, if by any chance this painting turns out any good, and you like it, then I will anyway have a sketch of it on our website for you to download if you want to have a go at this. So here's the big fat one in the front here, and I'm going over my very light sketch, which was in pencil, and then I rubbed most of it out very gently. Because I want to put the background in. And I'm not sure if I want to put the background in first or the cats in first at the moment. Trying to work this out as I go along. So that's the cats all outlined. And I think that's probably enough, I hope. There's leaves and flowers and things on there as well, which you might not be able to see yet. But I'll put those in afterwards. They're just as a guideline for me as I start. Right, I haven't got any water. Hang on. Maybe I'll leave the top part blank. And just, I want to put some leaves in there, but I'll do that at the end. And I'm thinking, remember yesterday in the challenge, we mixed together some Cerulean blue, wasn't it? I'm going to try that. Some Cerulean blue actually is only a mixture of phthalo blue with white, but we won't mention that. And we mixed it with yellow ochre, didn't we? To make a nice soft green, something like that, which I thought was quite interesting. I need to mix a bit more because I think that's quite a good green actually. Yellow ochre and phthalo blue. So I'm going to put that down here. You can put any colour you like. And I'm just stroking it in. I'm painting wet on dry. I'm going to put on top of this some flowers or leaves or grasses or something, I'm not sure, maybe even an abstract design. And I'm just dropping in as my initial texturizing thing, doing some drop wash technique to give it some interest rather than just having it plain. It also covers up any mistakes you might make. So that's good. Then, I suppose I should do each of the hills, and we'll try and keep to a unified palette by sticking with only a few colours. So I've got my yellow ochre there, which I've used a lot more of just recently. And I'm thinking, I think the backgrounds should be pale. Just for the purposes of this particular painting, we'll keep the backgrounds, so that's to say these cats are sitting on a hill. I'm surrounded by cats here. I spend at least how many hours a day looking after them, I don't know. But I get up in the morning and after I've had my first cup of coffee, I come downstairs and I feed 3 cats, one of which has a special diet that requires special preparation because he's a bit of a special cat. And then I feed the other 2, and then I go to the studio and I've got another 2 there to feed. And yeah. And there's, as I sit here, I can see 2. There's Ginger one in front of me and a black and white one over on the right. And the Siamese has gone out. He's always outside. So let's use this rather pretty turquoise colour here then for this hill. And it does give me a bit more confidence when I come near to the cats here. I don't have to fuss too much about not going into their shape because I've got that barrier with the mask. See, so if my hand shakes, it gives me a bit more protection from going in the wrong place. So I do find that quite interesting and helpful, actually. I think as time goes by, you have to look for these things, don't you? Like one of the things I've found recently that I need, and I never did before, never ever did have a cleaner, a lady who comes. She actually lives next door and she's lovely, but she's coming and helping with keeping the house clean. Because as I say, with all the animals, because on top of the 5 cats, we've got 3 dogs, 2 large ones, 1 small one. Most of our animals are rescues, all except the 2 large ones, which are golden retrievers. They're all rescues. I think I've mentioned this before, but of course not everybody who watches this video knows anything about me, but we live on a sort of small holding in the middle of Brittany, in France, and France is not renowned for taking care of animals, quite the reverse. So we often find ourselves having to rescue someone. Okay, so that's the that's the ground, the background for the ground. And I still can't decide whether or not to put anything, whether I should put some blue or something up there. I don't know. I think I'll probably leave it. And I might put the hairdryer on just to dry that off. Okay, so now let's start with one of the cats. Get my mixing tray around. And this is where you can have some fun in deciding what colour you're going to do them. So I've got some, this looks like cobalt blue here. What I want to do is make a kind of greyish blue. So I'll pick up a bit of black and add that. And I think I'll just paint this one. And we'll put a little bit more, slightly darker in places. Okay, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to dry that one because I want to test to see whether this technique is going to work or whether I have to rub off all of the masking first. So when you're trying out a new technique, obviously, you have to try things out, don't you? Normally, I do a test run if I'm trying something completely different, like this. and then do it for the video, but we're a little bit short of time at the moment. So I thought I would go straight ahead and see, whoops, figuring it out as I went on. So let's see what we've got there now. He looks a bit small, doesn't he? But that doesn't matter. I think I need a smaller brush. And as you know, what we do around here is not the same as what everyone does, but what we do is we work it out as we go along. So we take the smaller brush and we go over the top. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, and I think I am going to be compelled to rub out my outlines in order to get a better effect. But the masking comes off quite easily with an eraser. Now this one, I'm going to paint with water first, and we're going to just do him wet in wet. So he's nice and wet. And let's make him creamy colour. And I'm going to take some burnt sienna, I think. And maybe stick a bit of black in that. Make it into a brown. And then we'll drop in his ears. And put some darks on his tail, like that. And then his little paws, his feet. And we'll just pop some in around his nose as well, something like that. And that we will let blend. Hopefully it will blend. And then we'll put his eyes and mouth and everything else in. Okay, so we've got one up here. I didn't really need to go around it with the masking on this case because I've decided to leave the background white. So, but there we are, you know. Can't hardly see him now, he's disappeared. But let's do him pink. So I think I mentioned the other day that alizarin crimson makes quite a nice pink, especially when diluted with a little bit of yellow ochre. It's a peachy colour. So we'll put this one in here. Ugh. And she's got her paw out and she's holding a sprig of leaves or something like that, or a flower or something. And a little bit more colour on her ears, perhaps. Okie dokie. I have a plan for this one. I'm going to sort that out. And what colour shall we do the next one? It's got to contrast with this. So I think probably I'm going to go for turquoise. A bit more turquoise on his ears. And he mustn't lose his tail. There we are. And the one in the distance, I think the colour that this one was meant to be was light grey. Whoops, don't forget. Don't forget. So I'll put the light grey one up here. And then I'll go back to the one at the bottom and correct his problem. I haven't left any spaces for any of their features at all, because we're going to go over the top with their features because it's easier. And these are not what you would call accu cats. They're just fantasy cats. Right, now the one down the bottom here. If this goes wrong, you'll never see the light of day for this one, but I'm going to try. Sometimes you just have to cover up your mistakes. Someone said the other day that they like it when I make mistakes. And I don't know if I even want to call it a mistake. I think it's just part of the creative process. But because it helps them feel more confident, because they know that if things go wrong for them, they go wrong for other people too. And I think that's something that we should admit a bit more often, because a lot of artists pretend that every time when they show you, not all of them, but a lot of them, they don't show the real process. They don't show you the sheets of paper they threw away. And the mistakes that they made. Now, I don't know whether this is actually really going to be a good cat or not, but he's certainly a focal point, I think we should say. He is a focal point, so I'm going to dry them all off. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint some leaves coming down from the top here. Because we're kind of pretending that our cats are sort of in the garden. And they're just playing around near the trees. And you could say, well, these are trees that are falling from, leaves that are falling from the trees in the autumn. Or you could say that they are parts of branches. But the main thing is that you try not to do two of the same colour. You just keep going around your palette. Picking up different shades and just putting them in at random. I'm just going to swap my brush for a different one. Sometimes you need to do that. Partly because using a different brush will give me different shaped leaves. I have to admit that every now and again I forget to change my colour in between strokes, so you might see me break my own rule like that. But that's usually when I've got a colour that I like and I want to do more of it. So I'm going to put in a few slightly bigger ones. You take some of them over the edge. Like this. We just put some really small ones down, lower down. Okay, so this was why I wanted to leave this white, because I thought it would look better. And then I'm going to just try another technique, which is to use a sharp pencil to just draw in some lines, because it's really fiddly to do veins using a brush, especially when the leaves are this small. So I think I'm not going to do all of them. Try and keep my hand off the wet paint. But I'm just going to do some of them. You could scratch out the veins with a sharp point that's not a pencil, but I rather quite like this technique, which is this dry? Yes. Which I invented. Well, at least I don't know whether I invented it, but I developed it or did it. I just did it because I couldn't find anything else to hand years ago. And every now and again I do it. You can do it on the wet ones, it works, or on the dry ones, it works too. So I recommend this technique for veins on small leaves. Okay, and then I want to put in some branches, and you could cheat, if you want to call it cheating, and use a, sorry about my husky voice, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Ignore me. You could use a pen if you wanted. But I'm just going to join a few of these up, not many. Just give some of them something to dangle from up top. I think that'll do. Another technique for veins, you can just use a fine brush like that. Now this kitty cat is standing on a branch, so we'll just put that in. I think I'll do it green. And he's got a few leaves nearby as well. As is she, holding a branch with some pretty peachy leaves on. And this cat is standing on a branch, also with some leaves on. And if your dirty hand accidentally touches your paper, and as long as you're using good quality cotton paper, you should be able to wash it out using a clean brush. Clean water. Okay, and we'll do this one here. It's holding a stem with some flowers. So we'll just pop on some pink flowers. Right. Oh, and while I'm doing leaves, I have got lots of leaves to do down here. But we'll come back to those later. Okay, now faces. This is where we're going to use a pen, I think. And I'll put features in. Ugh, it really is one of those days. So I'm going to probably basically draw around my paint. If you're using cold press paper, like I am, you can't expect a very straight and even line. Okay, now I'm just going to concentrate. I always do their little noses as little heart shapes like that. And I'm going to, I think, keep their eyes really simple and unrealistic. I will put a little bit more colour on there in a minute, but we'll do this one now. Everybody has their favourite way, don't they, of painting cats? Oh, of course, whiskers. Easy to forget. Anyway, with the scratchy line from the pen, I quite like it myself. To the inside of his ears, a bit like that. There we are, and this one. I think you'll find it's easier to do their faces if you start with their noses. And you can vary their features just by making the eyes a little bit bigger or whatever you fancy doing. Go around our big fat Siamese. I used to be afraid of painting or drawing cats. And then I discovered that you could do them in a whimsical way, and that was quite easy. So I stopped being afraid. You haven't got your whiskers yet. There we are. Now, what are we going to do about this one, is the question. Can't go over him with a black pen, so maybe we need to go over him with a white pen. So, let's give him his face. I might go around the outside of him. Leaving some gaps. There we are. And come up here. Don't stop working. Did you see what I did there with the whiskers? They're white when they're against the black of the cat, but when it's against the light colour background, they go black. That's called counterchange. And that's a very important principle for painting in watercolour or any other colour, come to that. So we'll give him a design on him. It's going to be the first to get his design. Just using an ordinary white gel pen here. And because he's special, he's going to have my favourite design of 5 dots. There we are. No need to worry, you're perfect. I forgot to do your little feet. Now, we'll just put some very simple, I think, tonally correct stripes on these cats. Just put a little bit more on their feet, perhaps. And then we can colour in the centres of their ears, and we could, if we wanted to, give them a little bit of a cheeky colour. And so Mrs. Pink over here, same thing, we go on the inside of the ears. She can have blush on too. And maybe we'll just bring some stripes around from the side, just very faint. Okay, Mr. Blue over here, same thing, same colour. Painting over the top of what we've already done gives us a darker shade of blue automatically. There we are. And how about you? You look very complacent. Has to be said, we'll give you some stripes. Perhaps that's even his paws. It's up to you to decide on that. Right, and then in the foreground here is the last thing we need to do is I'm going to put in some grasses. I want some slightly darker grass here, bigger ones. Okay, now we go back to our, so I was afraid I was going to forget that. And I shall do the same sort of thing, but slightly different up here. So I'm just going to dilute that a bit. This is just yellow ochre plus a little bit of this colour green down here. Gives us a variety of colours here. Because it looks a bit blank, doesn't it, if it's like that. And then the turquoise, we can do dots. And then a little bit of pink. Flowers in the foreground. And as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking maybe a little bit of blue. Perhaps we need another little hill here to fill that gap. There we are. Okay, I think that'll do. Didn't go around those ones yet. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. There's a lot of ideas in there that you might be interested in developing for yourself, and lots of other ways that you could do it. So I'll leave you with my 5 cats that live with me and a tree. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. I haven't said that for ages. And don't forget also to go and visit our website at dianeantone.com. There'll be a new newsletter this week, so that will be fun. And we haven't written one for ages, but one is coming out now. So go and have a look at that, subscribe, and you'll get it in your mailbox soon. So I'll let you go and have a lovely week. Bye everyone, bye-bye.